You recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. You can call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are live on Relics Radio again tonight. It is December the 6th, 2018. I tell you what, this year has just flown by. It's almost over with. And the weather's changing. We had a little bit of snow, and they're calling for a little bit more snow again. But it's still Thursday, and we're still on the air. We survived the infamous bad lip sync reading, didn't we, Jeff?
Oh, we sure did. Super homie.
Yeah, you're going to cut down on a freestyle right now, you said there. Hey, if you guys haven't seen Plugmaster Ford's latest video that came out today, you need to go and check it out. It is absolutely hilarious. He got Gypsy, and he got us, and he got Quarter Hoarder again. There's a new one, and just a bunch of good ones on there. Hey, I see the chat's filling up, Jeff.
It's going pretty quick. We've got Ron Reed in the house. We've got, of course, Ken. He was the first one, Finding America. Missouri Mike, of course, the Plugmaster Ford himself. He's in the house today. I guess they may be traveling. I don't know. And then move on up a little bit. Larry Stevens is in the house. Shane. Hey, our half redneck. He's in the house today. So.
Mr. Mark Hoover, the Mark Hoover
Mr.
effect.
Mark Hoover. So, but yeah, that's it right now. So I'm sure they'll pop in there in a second. They'll give it like maybe 10 after, and then it'll just light up like a Christmas tree.
And Mark Hoover told Jeff Ford, he said that was a masterpiece. You made my day. I'm still laughing, I tell you. And I watched it. It was probably 1:30. It came out at 1 o'clock, and I probably watched it at 1:30. And I just rolled laughing. And I showed it to Raina, and she just kind of looked at it, and looked at me. She thinks all this is foolishness anyway. But
yeah, Jeff Williams, he's a gold prospector, and I really like that one. Of course, when I first started doing videos and stuff, I'd watch some of his videos, and he's got a good clip. He goes, JeffWilliams.com, and then, of course, I started going, JeffWarwick.com, and then, of course, the kids, they would just blow up laughing, and we were making a big deal out of it. So
yeah. And me and Jeff got out, and we've got a couple of hunts in the can. We had one that came out Tuesday. We got another one that's coming out this next Tuesday, and then we got another one in raw video right now. That's what I've been working on a little bit today, and we're starting to get out, and hopefully week after week after week now we're going to be together and try to get back in the groove of things. We kind of had a hiatus since about August, different things coming up and everything, but it's good to get back together, and it's good to get out and hunt with you again, Jeff.
It's been nice. I've really missed it, and I'm glad we've got back out, and we've had some decent hunts the last few times we've been out.
We ain't found no gold coins, and we ain't found anything that you want to write home about, but we found some good stuff. We sure have, and got some stuff for history clips. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed today or not, but I put the first history clip on Adventures in History, a group site that Mark Hoover is the administrator of and the owner of, and we're going to do that once a week. I'm just going to go back and pull those out, and so you don't have to watch my whole video to get that history clip. But all you're going to watch now is old ones. I'm not going to let you have any of the new ones until you watch the video. So maybe that'll pull some people in to where they start watching with us. And I tell you what, these hoodies have come in at just the right time, didn't they?
Oh, they sure have. I mean, they have been great. And, of course, I've worn pretty much, mine every day. And, of course, we've got our new camouflage ones in. And, they're warm. And that big pocket in front, it helps out with the Relics or your phone or whatever. And then, of course, it's got the hoodie on it that covers them ears up. Jeff and I went out the other day, and it was 16 degrees when we went out to hunt. And the only thing that I had on was a T-shirt and my detectors hoodie, and I was just as warm as a bug in a rug. They're just exactly right. I wore mine to Walmart today. We went to the grocery store, and they look nice and they're comfortable and everything. And thanks to Ken and Mark for doing that for us. Yeah, thank you very much. You also had your relic hunting pants on. So you said all I had on was my hoodie and my T-shirt. So
yeah. That don't even sound good right there.
It did. No. I just had to correct you there.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Thank you for that. I think we need to get on into the show. Who we got tonight, Jeff?
We got Nick Amelio. How you doing, Nick?
Hey, barely heard you. Are you on?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Can you hear me now?
Good. For those of you that don't know, Nick Amelio is he's a young man. You live down in Florida, don't you, Nick?
Yes, I do.
And lives down there around a bunch of the Seminole War history and those sites. And I know that you do other kinds of detecting, but that's your forte, isn't it? The Seminole War stuff.
Area down.
You're cutting in and out, Nick. I don't know what the deal is.
Am I?
That you sounded okay then, but we didn't get the first part of the other.
All right, let me move real quick. All right. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So what I was saying was down here, obviously we don't have any Civil War relics, so some of the war relics are the closest thing. So it's always good to get out at the Seminole War forts.
Now, are those actual forts, or are you going into farm fields, house sites, or what kind of situation are you hunting in there?
So what I've been doing is about a year and a half ago, me and my dad were trying to find this one fort, and so we found maps for it, and it was pretty easy to align it, and we could figure out where it was. It was right along the river, and it's actually in a modern-day neighborhood. And that's my favorite type. One of my favorite types of hunting is just being able to get on some modern yards, but they're being relics, and that's been the case. We've been getting on these fairly modern houses where the fort used to be, and we've just been having major success getting permission and detecting them. And of course, I've actually been really lucky that not a lot of people have detected this fort. So.
Man, that's really great. I know we have a lot of problem with that around here, and everybody wants to build their house on the highest point where they have a good view, and they wanted to do the same thing in the 1700s. So most likely, the modern house is built right on top of the colonial house.
Exactly.
Are you having much trouble getting permission to hunt those sites, Nick?
Down here, actually, the neighborhood I'm hunting, actually everyone's really nice and understanding of the hobby. And over the years, I've learned how to present my case better with trying to get permission. But I've only gotten a couple no's in this area. And, yeah, I've been pretty successful with getting permission in the areas I've wanted to. So.
And there are a lot of people that are apprehensive about going and knocking on somebody's door and asking for permission. How do you go about that? What do you say if say you go up to a brand new door and you don't know the people there? What's your spiel?
So, I don't really have a specific thing I say every time. It changes from time to time, but generally I just explain that, I'm 14 years old and I'm really interested in history in the area. I kind of inform the people about the fort that was there in case, they don't know about it, and explain some of the history. And then I kind of bring in the hobby of metal detecting, and then kind of just ask from there if we could poke around on their property a little bit. And they usually are okay with it if you present it right, but that's basically what I do.
Man, that's great. We had a question in the chat. Ron Reed, he was wanting to know, what age or time frames are the Seminole War relics from?
Yes, so I have two forts, but the first one is where I dug my first Seminole War relics. It's second Seminole War era. It's about 5 minutes from the fort I'm detecting recently, but that one is from 1838 to 1842. And the one I'm detecting right now in this neighborhood is it was there from 1850 to 1858. So third Seminole War era.
And we were talking a little bit before the show because actually there were three of the Seminole Wars that lasted from 1816 to 1858. And I didn't know it, but it is the Seminole Indian Wars were the longest and most expensive of all the Indian Wars for the U.S. And then in the third Seminole Indian War, they eventually moved the people to a reservation in Oklahoma out of Florida, didn't they?
Yes, they did. That's true.
And, Loy, you have a connection to that, dude.
Yeah, I do. My great-grandmother is Seminole Indian. That's on my mother's side. And when she was a small girl, the 1858 move from Florida to Oklahoma, she was involved in that. And I remember she lived on the reservation there in a place called Soper, Oklahoma. And I remember as a young man going there, we'd go there and visit her. Not real often. I wish we'd have visited more. And I wish I had talked to her more about history. But she was pretty bitter about that move, about them having to leave their home in Florida. And they actually walked from Florida to Oklahoma. And I do remember her telling some stories about and I don't remember how many, but at least watching one grandparent fall by the wayside, and they just had to walk off and leave them. And it was a tragic story, and she had hard feelings about that, about the war and about the move.
I'm sure I would have too. I mean, you imagine leaving Florida and going to Oklahoma, but I mean, either that, just watching the elderly people, even not related to you, just left off the side of the road and just forgot about.
Yeah, it is a terrible situation. What all kind of stuff do you find during that period, Nick?
Yeah, so the stuff we find, it's kind of similar to Civil War relics, but there's some slight differences with the design of the buttons and stuff. But mainly what we find at these fort sites are musket balls, bucking balls, and mainly the buttons we find are either artillery buttons or pewter trouser buttons, and sometimes we find U.S. greatcoat buttons. But they have a slightly different design because they're pre-Civil War, but they all come out great. So it's
that was something that I was going to mention. You know what? It reminds me of the soil that Matt hunts in, doesn't it? You, Jeff?
It sure does, and I've seen some of your buttons come out of the ground, Nick, and they are beautiful in that sandy soil.
Yeah.
I mean, it preserves them great. It really does.
What is the difference?
Really does.
What is the design difference, the look or what have you, between the Seminole Indian War buttons and Civil War buttons?
Well, I kind of find a mix of the one pieces and the two pieces. Usually I find the two pieces at the 1850s fort. But the two pieces kind of look the same. It's just a slight difference, one of the earlier varieties with, some minor details. But the one-piece eagles, which I occasionally find, look pretty different. And a couple weeks ago, I actually found a pewter eagle cuff button, which I actually found one at the 1830s fort as well as one of my first buttons. But I was shocked. I didn't really know. I think they're pretty rare. I'm not too sure, but kind of looks like a regular eagle button, but it's one piece in pewter. And there's a variety of different buttons.
Yeah. I'd say that is a rare button, wouldn't you, Jeff?
Yeah, I'd say it is. I believe I've seen a couple of them online that people had found, and of course they talk about how rare they are, and they are beautiful buttons. And that reminds me like something like a War of 1812 button, pewter with just an eagle on it. So
that's kind of what I was thinking, that the pewter buttons would probably be the older buttons, wouldn't they? Probably closer to the 1816 whenever it first started. And it may be kind of a carryover from the War of 1812, because a lot of those buttons are made out of pewter.
They really are. So, but Nick, we had go ahead.
I was about to say, speaking of buttons pertaining to the War of 1812, a lot of times at these Seminole War sites, you do find a lot of buttons that are War of 1812 era. At the fort, I've actually found a pewter U.S. button. I've dug a script I pewter button, and then two of those eagle pewter buttons. So sometimes I guess they just wore old coats or something like that, but there's a lot of those.
Yeah, I'd say.
Do you ever run into any bottle dumps at the fort?
I wish. I've heard. So, like I said before, not a lot of people have hunted the site, but the people that have, I've actually got in contact with the main guy that used to hunt my fort site back in the 70s, and it's really cool to be able to talk to him and see, what the site was like back then and the amount of stuff they were finding. Like, the site now seems like it's never been hunted, so I can imagine how it was back then. So he was telling me how he used to find bottle dumps and be able to find, he has like 40-something complete bottles that he's dug, but the only thing I've managed to find was pieces of bottles. Sometimes I actually dig big pieces of bottles. Every time I go out, I bring a probe and try looking for bottles. It's one thing I've always wanted to find is a complete Seminole War era bottle, which I've yet to do yet. So.
Wow. And one other question that I had before we get off the subject of the relics that you're finding there, I noticed that that you're finding some round balls and trouser buttons as well, and it seems like that the trouser buttons that you're finding, and you can chime in on this too, Jeff, because you may know more than I do, it looks like that those trouser buttons from the Seminole War period are larger than the Civil War. Am I correct on that? Yeah,
so the pewter buttons, they actually do, you're right, they do seem a little bigger than the Civil War ones. There are two sizes that I find, though. There's the regular size one, is which I call them, but they might be bigger to some people. But occasionally I find the really tiny ones, but, those give kind of hard signals because they're like really small 40 signals, the smaller variety. But I mainly dig the bigger ones. But, yeah, they are a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and I've noticed the Civil War trouser buttons, all the ones I've ever dug are iron. I've never found a pewter one. Mm-hmm. They're all been iron.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't think that we had found any that were pewter. So that makes them an older button than, obviously they're an older button than the Civil War because Seminole Indian War, back in the 1850s, and of course Civil War didn't start till 1860, so yeah, they'd be older. One other question that I had just watching your videos and looking at the round balls that you pull out, they look like 69s. Are they that caliber?
Yes, most of them, the bigger ones are 69 caliber, but again, there's a mixed variety of them. Sometimes I find pistol calibers. Sometimes I find like 58 calibers and stuff like that. But most of the big ones are 69 calibers. And occasionally, in the beginning when I started hunting this site, I found a few 69 caliber mini balls actually. And they're the really early variety mini balls because it's the 1850s. But I have found a couple there. So.
And I would say that they are rarer than the round balls there. I'd say that they weren't using the mini balls as much. Well, very interesting. I tell you what, we're going to take a break here and run a commercial, and we're going to open up the phone lines, 270-495-0315. If you've got a question for Nick, we'll call in and we will ask him.
Hey, Seven, we's looking good in our new Relics Radio T-shirts.
Yeah, Ken and Mark Guthrie of detectors.com done brung them to us.
Yep. And they makes other shirts, too.
Yeah, boy. Detectors.com can handle tees for your club, hunt, or any other promotion folks may have.
They even got the Wide Pride shirts.
Yeah, them boys does the manatee crawl.
Yeah, scooting on their bellies.
That's what I said. The manatee crawl.
Looks like slugs eating jelly.
So whether you hunt horizontal or vertical, tell the folks where they need to go, TJ.
www.detectees.com.
It never gets old, does it?
It never gets old. I really want to do another commercial, but I just don't have any inspiration that is better than that one right now. And at the moment, I don't think that Ken and Mark want that commercial pulled. We'll see in the future. And by the way, let's give another plug. That is Plugmaster Ford. That is the voice behind that commercial. And he's got a new lip sync video where he talks just like that with me and Jeff. And we're actually doing some rapping, ain't we, Jeff?
We are. I mean, well, he's doing a lot better job than we could really do. So, I mean, I wouldn't offend it too bad, but I mean, it was a really great video. Loved it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I'm anxious to see more of them.
Yep, sure is. We've actually got a call that came in. 1,000 is the last number. Who we got?
Hey, Seven, this is Ron. How's it going?
Hey, Ron.
How's it going, Ron?
One of the dig dogs.
Hey, guys.
You got a question that you want to ask?
I do. And
Nick?
just FYI, that commercial had my dog all tore up.
Oh, really?
He was down there barking.
Yeah, even the dogs.
With the manatee crawl.
Yeah, even the dogs. And before you get into anything, we've got another call that has come in, and I've uploaded you here. You'll just have to kind of hang on until Ron gets finished,
Sure.
and then we'll bring you in. Go ahead, Ron. Not trying to rush you or anything.
Oh, no worries. Hey, so I did have a question. So I had just found one of those little mini plates from the Civil War, which a couple of my buddies said were issued like in 1822, which kind of seems a crossover. And my question to Nick was, do they find any plates that kind of cross over like that from the Seminole Wars or...
Yeah, so I've only dug 2 plates ever, and they are both the U.S. mini, I guess you could call them mini plates. They're called, I think the actual name is small style U.S. belt plates, and I think there might have been a variety in the 1820s, I'm not sure, but the ones I have are model 1839 is when they were issued, I'm pretty sure, so yeah.
Okay, well... That's good information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks.
Those are great finds.
Hey, thanks for the call there, Ron, and for the great
no problem.
For the great question. And hey, by the way, me and you and Tim and Jeff need to get together next week or something other as soon as we can, and get out there and see if I can find my plate somewhere. Okay.
Well,
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
I want to, before Ron goes, I want to thank him very much. When we were down at the Franklin Civil War show, of course, I had Avery with me. And then, of course, Avery, he would get a little fussy, and I would carry Avery around. So happened, Ron, he would push Avery's stroller around for me. So I really appreciate that, Ron. You was a lifesaver.
No problem, man.
buddy.
That's the first time I've done that for like 20 years. So, you know.
Yeah, I got bad news for you, Ron. It's all coming back. You'll have to do it all again. And me and Raina are fixing to. Surely we're about to enter the third phase where we go to taking the great grandchildren. You know, as old as I am and all that. You know.
Well, it was great talking to y'all, and we did enjoy the time we had over there at the Franklin show, Jeff.
Yeah, I really did too.
We'll get in contact. Maybe we can all hook up next week or something.
Okay,
Alrighty, sounds good.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
And 8585, who we got?
Hey, this is Roger Corder from Tennessee.
Hey, Roger. Good to have you. Good to have you on tonight. Have you got a question for Nick?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about Nick, but I was kind of curious what part of Florida he. I was born in Florida, and there were Seminoles, actually villages that I went to as a real young boy. He was
wow,
but I wasn't as aware of it until I guess fairly recently about all the activity that went on down there. I took it all for granted when I was a kid, didn't know any better than that stuff. What part of Florida is Nick from?
yeah. So I live in kind of the southeast part of Florida, but Seminole War forts and activity are really all throughout Florida. But where I hunt and where I live is in like southeast Florida area. So, yeah.
I was born in Hialeah, which is way down there in Everglades. There were still Seminole Indians villages down there. This was in the 50s or early 60s is when this was. But I wish that I had done. I know a lot of the people on the show have said the same thing. I wish I had started a lot of these hobbies when I was your age. You're doing the smart thing.
Yes, he is.
Most definitely.
And there's something else about the Everglades. Whenever they moved the last bunch of the Seminole Indians out in 1858, the story is that there were, and I think, Nick, you may know more about this story than I do, there was about 50 of those Indians that retreated into the Everglades and they didn't get them out. Can you help me out on that?
I'm not too sure about that story. I remember hearing about it. I remember reading about it in the book I have, but I think you're right about that.
Yeah. I don't know if
I had a good friend that he was from that area around the Everglades, and he was telling me that the same story that several of them got off in the Everglades and they never could get them out. So that was the only Native American tribe to never totally be captured by the Union.
And I'm sorry, I was doing some writing. Our caller, what is your name again?
Roger Corder.
Roger Corder. Hey, Roger, are you doing detecting now?
Yeah, well, I just got, it's 20 or 30 years ago, my mother bought me a detector, a White's detector, and I never had one. Didn't know anybody that did it, and I found a few pop tops and lost interest pretty fast in it and never did. It's still in the closet right now, but I bought one from a friend here about a year ago now. He sold me one, and he's pretty big into it, and so I've started fooling with it. The first day I actually went with him, I found a general service button, and that was a pretty big thrill, but I haven't been a whole lot out of time. I have a farm and cattle, and I work a full-time job, and I don't have if anybody, you've lived on a farm, you've always got something to do.
Yeah, there's always a job on the farm. Now, are you still in Florida?
No, I'm in Tennessee. I'm in Lincoln County.
Oh, that's right.
Lincoln County? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm about 40 miles north of Huntsville, Alabama.
Well, see, I was fixing to hook you up with Nick, down there if you were down there in Florida. But I'll have to hook you up with me and Jeff then, and Heath if we ever make a trip down. And we're trying to find a spot along the Alabama-Tennessee line somewhere down in there to hunt with Heath and them. So we may reach out to you sometime, come down there and hunt with you if you don't care.
That'd be great. I live, I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I've got 2 houses in this county that were built in, one of them is still standing. The guy who lives in it, it was built in 1809. His farm actually joins my farm. And then there's another friend of mine that owns a farm and a house that Joseph Greer, he was the, what they call him, the, whatever that battle was, the King's Mountain Messenger is what he was called, and he was the one that took the message of the victory up to Washington, I think in Philadelphia, but he settled down here in Lincoln County, and where his home was, this friend of mine owns the farm, and the home is gone, but he knows right where, actually some of the wood that was, I think they tore it down in the 30s, some of the wood out of that house was used in the house that he lives in now, but it's right just maybe 50 yards from where his house is now, so I hope to get over there and hunt through that. Hope I can find something.
Yeah, and hopefully we get hooked up together. Did you have another question for Nick before we let you go?
Well, not really. I just I don't know enough to ask a whole lot of questions.
Okay.
But,
well, we'll let you sit back and listen. But I agree with you. We should have all started when we were Nick's age at 14 years old. Yeah.
I will say I appreciate the show. I've listened to it. I've probably caught up since I started this stuff. I've probably listened to every show. I really enjoyed last week with Patrick Stewart and Josh Tyree. I got an F-75, and maybe that's probably the reason. But they sound like both a couple of really great guys. Well, everybody does that's on the shows there.
Well,
They really are.
Thank you so much for that, Roger, and appreciate the call. And Roger brings us into a good segue, too, talking about the F-75 and those type machines. What are you using now, Nick?
Yeah, so right now I'm using the Technetics T2 SE, and it's just a great machine. I've been running it in a 2+ tone setting in my fort and going back over and listening to those deep targets, and it's been working out great. So, yep.
Nick, do you use the stock coil?
I switch out between the stock and the small coil, depending on where I am on the site I'm hunting now. There's some really thick iron areas, and I put my small coil on, and I get in between the iron and can snipe out a few targets, and it doesn't really affect the depth too much, I don't think. I've gotten some really deep targets with that small coil, so it's been working out pretty good.
I just purchased one. It was a couple of weeks ago, and it come with the little hockey put with a small coil and the stock coil, and also the sharpshooter. And I really like that sharpshooter. It seems the separation's real well, and then the depth is decent.
Cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
And Jeff, you two guys may talk about settings on the T2 since both of you have them.
Yeah, of course, you said you run yours in 2+.
Yeah, I alternate sometimes between 2+ and boost mode. The SE, of course, has the additional boost mode, which reaches down and gets a little extra depth. And I really like that in quiet areas with not a lot of iron to try to listen to those deep tones. But if I do get in the area of iron, I switch it to 2+, and I found that kind of discriminates the iron a little better. And actually, I think that's a really good setting for getting deep targets as well. So.
Yeah, do you run any discrimination, or of course I run mine at 0 where I can hear everything?
Yeah, I run mine in 0 as well. That's what I did in Virginia, and it worked out really good in that iron-infested area to listen for just a little chirps mixed with the iron, because, of course, if you have your iron discrimination too high, sometimes it masks those good signals mixed with iron. And I'll tell you, every single signal in those woods in Virginia that were all those buttons were, I pulled probably like 3 nails out of the same hole. So it's good to have it on 0 discrimination.
It really is. I dug a tomback button. Mine 7's last hunt, and it was surrounded by a lot of iron. So I mean, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you could just hear that little beep, and if I'd had the discrimination up I wouldn't have heard it. So.
Yep.
And you know what, guys? Here is a young man, and you're 14 years old, correct, Nick?
Yes, correct.
Here is a 14-year-old that has learned the secret already to relic hunting, and that is listen for everything. I know it's aggravating. I know it's, it kind of drives you crazy sometimes to hear all of that iron, even though the iron is a low frequency and a low grunt. But you're going to miss some targets, aren't you, Nick, if you don't run where you can hear the iron?
Yes, you will, definitely. I've hit in the area of my fort like probably 100 times. And then I decided to turn my discrimination off and go slow, and you'd be surprised how much you can miss if you are discriminating the iron too much. So, yeah, it has a big factor. So.
And, Jeff, you were talking the other day about some fast mode that you're running in that. What was that?
That is fast audio, and then that's in one of the modes. You do lose quite a bit of depth, but if you're in that iron, I mean, it's fast. I mean, it is really fast. And I mean, if I'm in a old home site with a lot of square nails, I'll run it in fast audio. And it's unbelievable how much stuff you miss in between that iron. But that fast audio really helps.
And somebody asked a while ago, and I can't remember who it was, and I know that Denny said that the T2 SE is like the F75 LTD, but would you trade up to, or would you consider it a trade up, Nick, to go to the F75 from the T2, or are they pretty well the same machine? What do you think about it?
I've talked to a lot of people that use an F75, and I've seen it quite a few times. And from what I've heard and seen, and I think they're basically like the same machine. They're really similar. I don't think, it's a step up or a step down. I think they're pretty similar. But, yeah, they're pretty similar machines.
They really are. And then the only thing that I've seen the F75, of course, they had a JE mode, jewelry mode, and that's what I run on my F75 quite often, and it done really well. And the T2, it has a lot better of a threshold than the F75.
Yeah.
Of course, both of them are great machines. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
hey, Nick, go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, I love the feel of it, and of course, you used it a little bit this past week, Seven. And I mean, I love how it feels in your hand. It's light, and the only thing, it's not waterproof. That's the only bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing that I didn't like about it is that the speaker comes out the back, and we don't use headphones, and all of the sound is coming out behind me. I'd rather it come out in the front. But do you use headphones, or do you sometimes use your machine without headphones?
I do a mix of things. If I'm in an area where there's neighbors nearby that may not want to hear my machine or something like that, I won't use them. Or if it's like a hot day, I won't use them. But generally, I'll use them to try to hear my sounds or my signals a little bit better. There's a lot of airplanes and stuff that are flying over, so it kind of helps to have those headphones to keep focus and listen to those signals. But yeah,
we're kind of the same way, ain't we, Jeff?
We sure are. I mean, and we were hunting the other day. It was close to a road, and I had to use my headset. I couldn't actually. I was using the T2, and I just couldn't hear anything, so I had to go to my headset. And then Ringfinder, Denny, he was like, he made a good point on the F75. He uses in Culpeper, he uses the all metal mode on the F-75.
Yep,
and
that's
of course,
what I did last time.
Yep, that's what I had to do when I went to Culpeper with my F-75. It's all metal mode. And you do get deep targets with that, but you also, you really can't tell in between a nail and a bullet or a button or anything like that. But you can hear the tone.
Yeah, last Just Go detecting hunt, I was in Culpeper, and with that T2, the first day or two, I was running. I didn't really know a lot about the settings in that hot of soil. That soil is hot in Culpeper. The mineralization is really, really bad. So unless you're using a pulse induction machine, it's really, really hard to hear targets of any kind, really. So the first day or so, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was running it in like discrimination and boost mode, which is not a good combination in that soil. So I was detecting for the first couple of days, and then I was detecting with Riley Bryant, and then he got a good signal. It was the area he was digging a bunch of sharps. And he's like, "Hey, Nick, come scan over this." And I couldn't hear it. And I was like, "Oh, no." And I've been running it in the same setting, the whole trip. And it was like a 6-inch sharps bullet. But then he's like, "Hey, try switching it into all metal." So I switched it into all metal, and I could hear it perfectly. So then I kept on running it into that the whole time, or the rest of the time, and I ended up finding some stuff after that. But
that's great. And so,
hey guys, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, that's what I would do with mine. And a lot of times I would hunt in the woods. I was hunting. It was called Jackson 5-Day Camp in Orange County, Virginia, and I hunted mostly in the woods with that. And then, of course, once you get out in the field, it was real hard. It wouldn't ground balance real well. So, but you could still, in all metal, you could still hear a target there.
Yeah, that's definitely GPX territory right there. Hey, guys, phone lines are still open, 270-495-0315. We'll be right back. If your passion is metal detecting, then you know how much your success is based on the equipment you use. Let my buddy Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, help you with that. Tim is an authorized dealer of Garrett, XP Deus, and Macro detectors and supplies, and he is now an authorized dealer for MineLab. So if you're looking to get your hands on one of the new Equinox 600 or 800, then Tim's your guy. Murray Branch Outdoors is not only competitive in their prices, but the service after the sale is second to none. Tim not only sells detectors, he uses them, and so he can answer any question that you might have. Murray Branch Outdoors also deals in used detectors, and he'll take your old detector in on trade when you decide to upgrade. So give Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors a call at 615-948-4611 and be sure and tell him that Relics Radio sent you. And so glad to have Tim as one of our advertisers. And by the way, Tim's got a website now. It is murraybranchoutdoors.com. All one word, murraybranchoutdoors.com. And go and check him out. He stands behind everything that he sells. And if you've got any questions, you can call him and talk to him. Tell us a little bit, Nick, about this NDL hunt that you just came back from.
So, yeah, I just got back from NDL, and I'll have to say, first of all, it was an amazing hunt. It was such a fun time. From the beginning to the end, it was just a great time in general. And NDL actually kind of goes after a different style of organized hunt that makes it kind of special and unique, and I thought was really fun. And they do like a scoring process. So at the end of each day, you have a specific time frame when you could detect, and at the end of the day, you could turn in your finds, and they give you a point for each find, and they give your finds back, and it's kind of like a little competition that makes it fun. And it was just really fun trying to get with your team. You're divided into teams depending on state, and whichever team has the most points wins. And each Civil War relic counted as 1 point. So it was really fun, and it was really easy hunting too. soil-wise, I should say. The soil was really good in that Richmond area. The nice sandy soil. I got some deep targets. So, yeah. And
a lot of people may not know. I didn't know until I think Mark Hoover's the one that told me, and he's put it in the chat. NDL stands for National Detecting League, and they take so many members from each state, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
How many do they take from each state?
I think on my team I had 8 team members, and I think it's about the same for each state. And sometimes there's a state is broken up into 2 teams if there's a lot of people from one state that want to be involved in the hunt. So, yeah.
Who is the founder of this league?
Larry Cisna puts on this hunt, and he's been doing it. This was the 20th year. He started in 1998.
I've never heard of it. Had you, Jeff?
No, I haven't. And then, of course, it would be pretty neat to go, it sounds like. But you have to be picked, right?
It's first come, first serve. It's kind of like Just Go Detecting. You email his email. If he announces the hunt, it's not as time sensitive as Just Go Detecting. If you've ever been to one of those hunts, it fills up in like the first few seconds. But he leaves his email, and you can just email him your information. And I actually did it. I think it was a couple days after the sign up started, and I still got in fine. And if you follow Larry Cisna on Facebook, he announces the hunts on there. He makes posts about it, and you can get involved that way.
So are most of the hunts, are they on historic properties, or is it a seeded hunt, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's on historic Civil War properties. This time it was had some activity with the Siege of Petersburg, and it had a camp on it, couple camps. There's a lot of hot spots scattered around, but it's not a seeded hunt. It's on genuine historical sites, and it's a really good spot last time. So.
No.
And you were talking about Just Go Detecting. I was on DIV last year. I was on the alternates list and didn't know if I was going to get in or not. And Jeff Ford hollered at me and told me sign-ups were going to be coming on at 6 o'clock that afternoon, and we were out of town. And so he said, for Just Go Detecting. So I went to the site and got ready to put my name in there real quick, you know. As soon as they opened that up at 6 o'clock, I put my name in, and they were going to take I can't remember, maybe 150. I put my name in the very second that it opened up. I was number 256. I couldn't believe it.
Man, you have to be quick.
I have never seen anything fill up that quick. But you're saying that the NDL is not that way, right?
Yeah, it is first come, first serve in some way, but it's not as, competitive as, commenting on a post, your information, and seeing what order you're in. It's kind of, it depends on how many people are on your team already. And, the Just Go Detecting signups. I mean, last hunt I went on, the signups, I literally had my stuff copied, ready to just paste it on there and hit enter. And right at the time of the signups, I refreshed, and then right when it popped up, I hit comment and just pasted it and sent it. And I was like number 100 and something, and I got it on the list.
Now, see, I didn't know about having it all done and then copy and paste it. As soon as it came on, I had to start typing. Of course, I'm an old man, and I don't type as fast as young people do. And that's just the way that it worked out for me. And you're with the Technetics team, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Tell us about that. How did that come about, and what have you done with them so far, and what are you going to do in the future? So
I've lost track of time. of how long it's been since I've joined the team, but I'm going to say about a year ago now. I got the T2, and I'd used a Technetics metal detector in the past before I got it, a couple machines before it, but I started using it, and I just instantly fell in love with it. The first hunt I had, I found 7 artillery buttons in a yard I've hunted a million times, and it's less than an acre, the property. And I found 7 artillery buttons in like a 2-hour hunt. And it was just getting in between iron perfectly. I just loved the machine. And I contacted Heath Jones, and I really wanted to join the team. I've heard about, I'm friends with Britton Lockhart, and he was on the team, and he was telling me he enjoyed it a lot. So I contacted Heath Jones, and he said he could possibly put the word out to Russ for me, who is kind of like the boss of the whole social media aspect of Technetics. And he put the word out for me, and I would say like a day later, I was signing in the contract for it, and I joined the team, and I've loved it ever since. I love advertising the products. It's easy to do when you really have a love for the machine you're using. So,
man, Nick, what did you use before the T2?
Before the T2, I used the Technetics Omega and the AT Pro.
How did you like the Omega?
The Omega was pretty good. I actually found my first decent coins with it. I found my first wheat pennies. Of course, for me, when I got started metal detecting, Nugget Noggin was a big influencer for me. And I was watching his videos and, of course, became familiar with some of the coins you find at old 1920s spots and stuff. So I found a few wheat pennies and got really excited about that. And my first silver I found with it and a couple other stuff. So,
well, since we're on that subject, Dennis asked, who most inspired you to start your YouTube videos?
So right about when I started detecting, after I got my first detector and stuff, we started watching Nugget Noggin videos. And me and my dad just got addicted to watching Nugget Noggin videos. We just watch them on the screen nonstop and just wait till he posts, new videos and watch them. And we really got a feel for what's expected in the hobby, because a lot of people get a metal detector and go out and get discouraged pretty quick if they don't find a lot. And it took me about probably a year or two to find even my first wheat penny. And watching his videos kind of gives you a perspective of what to expect, with wheat pennies and stuff like that. He gets, in the videos we were watching, he gets excited over wheat pennies and buffalo nickels, which I do too. And it, kind of gives you a starting point and you could see the stuff he's finding and kind of be able to identify stuff. And also, Depths of History, Britain was one of the first relic hunters I started watching on YouTube, and I kind of got inspired by him because he's another young guy, and he's posting videos and doing really well, and I kind of got inspired that way as well. So
that's right. I watched a lot of Nugget Noggin's videos, and of course, I remember when he started hunting with his grandfather. His grandfather would drop him off somewhere. Then he started hunting with his dad. And then he just kind of got out on his own, and I mean, it was.
Yep.
He has done great. He really has, and I mean, he's worked hard at it.
And
he sure has.
We got Denny on the phone, but before we go to Denny, there's one more thing that I wanted to bring up on your Virginia hunts and everything. You found a bullet in a tree limb, didn't you?
Yes, I did. So that was probably my find of the hunt. The finds were really scattered. Of course, the first 10 minutes of the hunt, you get into this decent area, but everyone just around you, even if you don't say anything. If you found a couple of things in the beginning of the hunt right away, and then I of course, I just moved away from everyone to try to find my own little hot spot. And then I found myself in the woods, and there was this little, like, rise up in the woods, a high point. And I'm like, Dad, I bet if I go up there, that's probably a little camp or something. So as I'm going up this little hill in the woods, I hadn't gotten a signal in like 2 hours, and I got a signal, and it was just a random eagle button. I was like, okay, I think we're on something. Then, before you know it, I hear iron everywhere, and I got into like a little camp or something. I ended up digging like 4 or 5 buttons that day, and so we were like, okay, and it was at the end of the day, and I said, okay, let's pin this on our maps, on our phone, and then just come back tomorrow. And, it's really good to have a good starting point the next day of an organized hunt, so you don't have the stress of finding, a good spot. So we come back the next day and start hunting, and then I get this 72 signal loud, and then I start digging it, and there's like something big at the bottom of the hole, and it was like deep in the ground. It was a piece of wood. I was like, this can't be it. And I go over it, and with my pinpointer, it's buzzing inside. I was like, whoa. I was like, that's the first thing I thought of was a bullet in wood. I was like, that would be amazing. The siege of Petersburg, it came right through the property. So I didn't know. I mean, I knew it was a possibility, but I was thinking it was probably a modern bullet. So I started like chopping at the piece of wood, which probably wasn't a good idea. But I'm so lucky I did not hit it. I perfectly hit off a piece of wood that exposed the bullet, and I just stopped. You could see the 3 rings, and I was so happy. But I'm lucky I didn't hit it.
Yeah, man. I guess you're going to leave it that way, aren't you?
Yep, I'm looking at it right now. It's still in that big hunk of wood. I've let it dry out, and I brushed all the dirt off, and I'm going to like coat it in polyurethane and try to preserve it as best as I can. And I'm leaving it in the wood.
Yeah, I would too. And
I don't blame me.
I think it's a good idea to coat it with something too to kind of preserve it like it is. Hey, Denny, you got a question for Nick tonight?
Well, I got a whole list of them here.
Well, don't know if we can get to all of them, but give us.
How old were you when you started metal detecting, besides 14?
So I actually started in 2012 as I was like 6 or I was like 7 years old. And
wow.
I just went in this dive shop near us, and I saw the metal detectors, and I've heard, I kind of had a general knowledge about the 1715 fleet. I mean, I live on a treasure coast, and there's a lot of 1715 fleet stuff off the coast. And so somehow I convinced my dad to get me a detector, and the first detector is a Bounty Hunter Junior, and we started detecting the beaches. I didn't really find much, but I kind of got into it that way. And
would have been better.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
So do you live on the Florida coast then?
Yes.
Yep, I know where you live. That's some of that's property is if you find it, you can't keep it. Did you know that?
Yeah, I make sure I'm on the right spots. I'm in the area where it's not. I think I know the fort you're thinking of, but it's not that one. I'm in the fort where it's in a private neighborhood, and I get permission, and there's no protected areas around it that, of course, I can't detect.
Yeah.
So I make sure I have permission every time, and find some pretty decent stuff.
Yep. When you do your videos, you use a telephone or are you using a camera, a GoPro or something?
I use a camera. I've gone through a couple just to see how they work. A couple months ago, I was using a DCLR camera. I think that's what they're called. It's like a Canon camera, but it's manual focus, and it's really hard to use. So I got what Nugget Noggin uses I got an Olympus TG5, and it works great. It's waterproof. It's really good quality. It could get beat up, and it's fine. It's a great camera.
Have you ever talked to Mike, or Nugget Noggin, as you guys call him?
Yeah, so I actually hunted with him twice. In February this year, he came down and hunted with me and at my Seminole War site, and he actually dug a real at my site.
Well, next time you hunt with him, Nick, ask him if he ever dug in the roads in Virginia. He'll know what I'm talking about. Tell him Ringfinder said that. That's a big joke.
Yeah, and I also, and then after that hunt, he came down again a couple months ago, actually, and he actually didn't know it then, but he texted me. He found what he thought was junk in an area that is produced a couple of things in my fort, but it ended up being like an officer's personal stamp.
Wow.
And it's like a piece of pewter that had a eagle and stars, and it had the officer's name in the middle, but whatever it had it on was corroded now, so you can't see it. And he's like, "Oh, I think this is what that is." I'm like, "Yep, that's it." I was like, "Man, I can't believe he found that." But yep.
Nick, do you use a
really cool
GPS to cite your finds?
Occasionally, yeah, but in these yards, it's not that hard to figure out where you found stuff and where. Through my videos, I can, if I have any doubt of where I found something, I could just, of course, go back and look exactly where I was.
In Virginia now, which if we'd have done it years ago, it would have been so helpful. We're using a GPS now to plot all of our finds, so we can find, where the concentration of soldiers were at in that certain area. Really helps.
Yeah. At one point, I was using this thing. It was like this app where I was taking GPS marks of every find, and it's super specific. And you could like label the GPS marks and outline clusters and stuff. It was a really cool app, and I think it's just for metal detecting. It says it in the description. I forget what it's called, but if you look up like GPS metal detecting app, it's really cool. Yeah, and I've used it a couple times.
I'll tell you something.
All right, Lloyd, that's what I've got.
Okay. Hey.
One more thing, and on the NDL hunt, are you able to keep what you find?
Yes, you are. You're the points. You just bring up your finds, and they look at everything and count it, and then they give it back to you, and you could display it and.
I thought that was pretty cool with all the state flags lined up in that picture.
It was.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah. It was really, really fun. So.
I know 11, who is it, Loy?
I'll have to go back. Is it Glenn?
Yeah, it's Glenn. I always call him
Watkins.
11.
Yeah.
And he was there with you, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Glenn Watkins.
He had probably had his guitar with him.
Hey,
there's a lot of cool people.
That's all I got, Loy. You're on. It's great that we have the youngsters coming into the hobby, and hopefully they'll keep it open for all of us to enjoy the rest of our lives and theirs.
I'll tell you what, right. It is great, but they're about to eclipse us. I mean, all of these young guys are so good at what they do. But thanks for the call, Denny, and we've got another commercial to run, and we'll be right back. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger Magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger Magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger Magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671. And be sure and tell them that you heard it on Relics Radio. And it is the premier metal detecting magazine, and I'm going to put another plug in the January-February issue. of American Digger magazine. My article, The Great Silver Hoard, with Jeff Ford, Wes Stringer, and Chris Hamsoff will be coming out, and we're looking forward to that. And also, while we're at that point, I might as well go ahead and say the Low Country Relic Show at Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which is just across the bridge from Charleston, will be January the 5th and 6th. And we plan on doing live podcast from there, just like we did at the Chattanooga show, don't we, Jeff?
Yeah, we sure do, and it's not far away, so we better be getting ready.
It's less than a month away now, I tell you.
I know it.
Well,
and
today,
hopefully there's not 24 inches of snow out there when we do it too.
I know it. That's the truth. And let's see. There was another question. Actually, Mark Hoover had 3 questions, and I'll take the first one. I'll let Jeff have the second one. Hey, Nick, what are your plans after high school? Are you going to go to college? And if so, what field are you going to try to get into?
Yes, I am going to go to college. I'm trying to go to a state college in Tallahassee, Florida State University. You know, a lot of people ask, since I'm do metal detecting, are you going to do something with archaeology? And my answer to that is no. Archaeology is obviously very different from relic hunting, and I think metal detecting is a really good hobby, but as a career, I don't think that's what I'm going to do as a career. And I think I'm going to do something in business or in finance, something along those lines.
Good choice. You'll be able to detect for the rest of your life. I was hoping that you wasn't going to say that you was going to get into archaeology, but I kind of thought that you might pursue a history major or something, you know, and be a teacher or something. But you're going to make more money in what you're after, and so that's really good. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, I'll let you take the second question then.
Yeah, Nick, have you metal detected anywhere outside of the United States? And if you have, would you go back?
No, I've not detected outside of the United States, but I would love to go to England one day and try to find some Roman and medieval stuff. It'll happen one day, but yeah. Yeah,
I would love to go myself, and then hopefully I'll be able to do that one day.
That'd be the holy grail right there of relics. I mean, just to hold something that was in 500 AD or older, I can't imagine. I'd just fall over, I think. Old as I am, I'd have a heart attack.
You would find a relic older than you, Seven.
Yeah, that's hard to do in Tennessee and Kentucky.
It really is.
Also, Mark Hoover asked another question. He said, who are the most influential people in your metal detecting pursuits so far? You've covered that a little bit with Nugget Noggin.
Yeah, Nugget Noggin, and I also mentioned Britton Lockhart. He's another big person I look up to when it comes to metal detecting. You know, we talk often about, you know, videos detecting and a lot of other stuff. And I just like his style of videos, and along with Nugget Noggin. And I also look up to like Bo a lot too. I had a chance to meet him in the first Just Go Detecting, and I think I'm going to hunt with him soon. He talked about coming down here. I would love to hunt with him. He was talking about it with me about coming down to Florida. It's cold in where he is right now, or every other part of the U.S. other than Florida.
Yeah,
it is.
Nick, could you imagine living up in the Northeast where you could only hunt so many months out of the year? I mean, Seven and I
cannot.
Our ground has never froze. I'm thinking it froze one time in the last 10 years where we couldn't dig, but with it frozen months and months out of the year, I could not imagine. I would go nuts.
Yeah, people are talking about, I see on Facebook, like relic hunting season. I'm like, relic hunting season? What's that? Because down here, you know, you can hunt all year and be fine. Other than, it's kind of the opposite, because during summer, then it gets brutally hot. really tough during summer.
It's the same way here, of course, and then that's pretty much. We try to stay out of the field as much as we can during the summer, but we can hit the creeks or the woods are pretty good. But
we at least got our off season is July and August, obviously because of the heat. But we've got something that we can do, And we got Mark Hoover on the phone. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Lloyd. Hey, Jeff, and hi, Nick. It's great to hear you on the show tonight. Doing a great job, buddy.
Thank you very much.
So it's nice to have a half redneck on the show tonight.
Half redneck. Yeah, guys, we're now 2.5 rednecks with a metal detector, and glad to have Mark Hoover on board. Hey, Mark, Nick is coming down to the Central Florida Metal Detecting Club soon, isn't he?
He is, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to call in. Nick is going to be, we're just absolutely delighted. He's going to be our guest in January at our January meeting. With him and his dad are going to come down and talk about the Seminole Indian War sites that they hunt on. So, we talked to his agent. I'm kind of joking about that, but, now that he works with Technetics, we worked with them and got Nick set up for our January meeting. So, Nick, we're really looking forward to having you come. And I wanted to tell everybody just a quick story, and then I had one last question for Nick. So some people know that I was on a cruise about 2 weeks ago, and every once in a while I would check my messages on Facebook. And I got this message from Nick, and it said, hey, where are you at? Are you on this ship? And I'm thinking, well, why is he asking me that question? Well, it turns out that we were ending up in the very same ports of call. I think Nick, you were going west to east, and I was going east to west. And our ships probably passed in the night somewhere along the way. So I just thought that was kind of funny. But Nick, I wanted to ask you: did you take your metal detector on the cruise with you?
I was trying to. I was asking my parents. I was like, Dad, listen, Mexico, those beaches and stuff, I bet there's rings everywhere and stuff. So I was like, I was trying to bring my detector, and they were like, oh, there's probably not a lot of room, and they probably won't allow it on the ship. And I was like, okay. So I decided to leave it home. But, man, I'll tell you, there's a lot of times when I was in the Mexico port where we were out by the beach, and there was this really shallow part of the water where I bet rings are everywhere. But it was a funny story. I was actually just kicking around in the sand, and I found like a peso or something. It's pretty cool. But I didn't get to detect.
Well, now, did y'all make a stop in Grand Cayman?
Yes, we did. Because the reason I asked is because all your Facebook posts, you were in the same exact places we were, Jamaica, Grand Cayman, and 2 spots in the Mexico. So I decided to ask, because if we were on the same ship, that would be pretty funny.
That would have been funny. Now, the reason I asked you about Grand Cayman is when we were there, there's actually a treasure store there, and I met the gentleman. He's been there. Yeah, he's been there about 40 years, and he's got Nick. You and your family would just have an absolutely delightful time there. I probably could have stayed there all day. We only had about a half an hour when I found it, but I did pick up a couple of buttons from a ship that was sunk and excavated, and then I picked up a sterling silver match case from 1914 from Birmingham, England, that was just absolutely beautiful. But if you ever go back to Grand Cayman with your family, definitely check that out. And I'll get you all the information on where the store is there. But we're actually thinking about going back to Grand Cayman just to hunt 7 Mile Beach there, because I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of places to hunt around those beaches, either in Grand Cayman or Mexico, around Cozumel. So, it was great chatting with you on there. This is the first time you and I actually had a chance to talk, but doing a great job on the program here tonight, and look forward to seeing you in January with your dad when you come down.
Hey, Nick, what are you going to do down there at Central Florida at the club meeting? Are you going to speak to him?
Yes, I'm going to talk about some of the wars and the relics I find, and just some of my strategies I use Yeah, that's just going to speak about what I do. So,
Mark, when you get down like Mexico and something like that, so out of the States, what is the price of the relics? Are they a lot different?
Well, and that's something you're going to have to be very careful about. You got to know the people that you're buying from, and I actually asked him about some of the people that he deals with, and I knew the people that he works with, so I felt pretty comfortable buying something. It's going to be a little higher, Jeff, because it's actually a tourist area, and they're going to charge more money, and they're going to get it. So it's just something you have to be aware of. But I will also tell you, as soon as he knew that I knew some of the people that he was dealing with, he actually gave me a little bit of a break on the price. So, they're very much interested in working with people that are into history and appreciate the history of the finds that they're bringing up, as treasure. So I was very thankful that he was willing to do that. And I look forward to going back and spending more time with him and learning a lot more about what he has in his shop. It was just kind of nice to be able to go there and find somebody that actually had real stuff and not just junk souvenirs.
Yeah, you see a lot of shows on Antique Roadshow. Somebody's bought something out of state and then think it's worth this amount of money, and then come to find out it's worth maybe 10 cents or something. So
that's true.
I don't know if you picked up on it there a while ago, Jeff, or not, but see, Mark Hoover's already making plans. He's going to come to Kentucky and hunt in 5 Mile Holler. Then he's going to go to Mexico and hunt on 7 Mile Beach. I don't know what he's going to do next year. We got a holler here, Nick, that we named 5 Mile Holler because it's every bit that far, ain't it, Jeff?
It sure is. I believe it's a little further, and you have to open 4 gates to get all the way through it. And I mean, once you get back there, the only thing you can hear is the nature. Outdoors is the only thing you can hear.
Wow.
It's nice.
You don't hear a car, you don't hear a person, you don't hear a plane, you don't hear anything. Of course, there's a lot of legends and stories that have been told about the place too. So kind of have to watch all that. But Mark is. He's already expressed a desire, as some other people have, to come and hunt there. What are your detecting plans in the future here, in the immediate future, Nick? Still going to just be hunting the same camps that you're hunting right now, or are you branching out, or what?
So I've been trying to do research. Trying to find better research strategies. Of course, my sites I have, I didn't, need a whole lot of research to be able to find them. Most of my research after was just trying to figure out some of the history of the site rather than where things were. And I've been trying to talk to people who used to hunt the other Seminole War sites in the area and trying to figure out information. And I'm trying to find other forts, but it's really hard to try to find some of these forts. And I actually have a new site that I'm going to try out in December. I forgot about that. While I was at NDL, I was talking to a guy that is selling his property. He has a property where it was either first or second Seminole War outpost is. And it's like 40-something acres, I think, and he's giving me permission to detect. So that'll be pretty good.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like it. So,
Go ahead.
Zeb.
Go ahead.
Do you do a lot of door knocking, or do you just, I know you said the fort is around a lot of homes, but do you have other sites that's like in pasture fields and stuff?
Actually, Seminole War-wise, not really. I mainly do just door knocking and asking around, trying to get on these house sites. But I have tried once. There's this one fort that's actually closer than to me than these other forts, and no one's ever found it. There's been a lot of legends about this fort, disputes about where it was, and then I did research on this fort since I've been beginning this hunt, or beginning metal detecting, I should say. And it's just a site that's eluded me. I finally got permission to the area that I was certain it was. And, you know, I got permission. It was on the Orange Grove. And I went out there and I did not a peep. And I think, you know, it might have been there, but all the dirt was so disturbed and, you know, fill dirt and stuff that, you know, it could have been completely built over. So by, you know, agriculture stuff. I don't know.
How large are these fort sites? Are they pretty good size?
I mean, they're pretty. This specific one I'm detecting, it's kind of scattered throughout. It's not mainly really one main fort. There was a main fort position there, but there's a lot of little things scattered throughout. So you could go pretty far away from the fort and get on a little hot spot. But there's a lot of cool things. Like there's a well, probably a quarter mile down the road, where they used to get their water at. And it's kind of just scattered, but yeah, it's pretty big. It's probably I don't really want to use like specific lengths because I probably couldn't be able to tell you, but it probably extends 6 houses like north, and then a lot of houses back. It's just there's not really a specific area.
And I guess that there would be picket posts around the actual fort or camp, wouldn't there be?
Yeah, so the site I'm on now, this site's awesome. This is a site that's exactly where I wanted to hunt. I think it's where the officers were stationed and some of the artillery, like artillery officers and just regular artillery soldiers. But it's a site that I'm hunting with my friend. I've been hunting with my friend Luke lately. He grew up around there. He actually grew up in that house, and he started detecting that way. And he showed me some of the things he used to find. But I call it the ditch site because there's a ditch, and you could hunt along it. And there's pottery, pipe pieces, brick, and there's buttons and stuff over there. That's where a lot of buttons have come out of. But then the property extends like quarter of a mile back, and apparently there's a bunch of like camps, and it's woods, and you can't get through, and it's really thick. But the owner just started slowly clearing out the back area and turning up the soil, and he's going to clear all the way back to the back end of his property. And when he does that, I think it's going to be a completely new site. It's going to be incredible because I've gone back in the woods a couple times, and the times I have, I've been really successful. So we'll have to see.
I'd seen that on your YouTube video where he was. Mm-hmm. You said he was starting to clean. And buddy, if you can hold on to that site, that is going to. I mean, there's enough relics there for you for the rest of your life, most likely.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every time I go there, it's like a new site. It's insane because just with this Florida sand, like it gets moved really easily. So it's amazing. It's like a new site every time. So.
And we got another call in, 4550. Who we got?
Celeste Rolls.
Hey, Celeste.
Hello, Celeste.
I tried.
Hi, how are you?
I tried to.
I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Nick a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
About his AT Pro and using it on the beach, the seaside. How does he get it to, work?
So I haven't used that detector in a while. I used the T2, of course. But my advice for any detector on the beach is to just continuously ground balance as much as you can and try to switch through your settings. But on the beach, it's usually really, your ground balance will be really low number. At least for mine it was. It was on the AT Pro, I think my ground balance on the beach was 13 is what I kept it at.
So did you manually ground balance it, or did you?
I did it both ways. I tried ground balancing it automatically, but if it didn't work, I would switch it manually to like 13. And that usually worked out.
I'll add a tip into that too, Celeste. On your ground balance, you can actually go in there and manually ground balance that and run it down to a real low ground balance, and that will help. And I think Mark Hoover's the one that gave me that tip. I didn't know that you could do that. Mm-hmm. But it's not a machine.
Now, would you go into the minuses to do that?
No, I think you go down to about 15 or 20 or something. You know, a normal ground balance on an AT Pro here where we're at, what would you say it is, Jeff?
No, mine about, I'd say 80, 82, sometimes 79. But I know if you manually ground balance the AT Pro, it only goes to 40. Then you have to do it by the other way. So.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. It's not a machine.
Yeah, Celeste,
it's not a machine for
Celeste,
salt water.
Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Lloyd, your tip is right on, and it is really not a good machine for the salt water, but you can ground balance it down to eliminate most of the chatter, and the way to do that is move it all the way down between 10 and 20. It generally around 15, it'll eliminate most of that chatter, but there's other machines now that are much better for the beach, and I would definitely go to one of those other ones. And of course, now you've got that CTX 3030. That's going to be a great machine, for the beach or the land. So,
much better for the beach, I can tell you that. But I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something, or, I've heard how you can make it the AT Pro to go up to positive or minus, as it says in the manual. But I was just trying to make sure that I just wasn't missing out on something. But yes, the CTX automatically does it, and it's beautiful. I got to get myself used to the salt water.
Which is hard to do, I tell you, whenever you're mainly a land hunter. And you won that detector, didn't you, Celeste?
Yes, I did. I won it through the Central Florida Metal Detecting Club with their April. It was on their April. It was in April for their shootout, and it was absolutely brilliant. And the best thing is to use that thing for the beach, the ocean, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything with the Garrett. But I have found that the CTX, it just balances automatically on the beach. It just does its own thing, and I just got to get myself acclimated to the beach, because I'm not really a beach person.
Yeah, I know when I took mine to the beach, in the wet sand, it done okay. The dry sand, it done great. But once you got into the salt water, it was terrible. And Tim Henderson corrected me. He said it will automatically ground balance to 12. Then you have to manually do it any lower.
Oh, okay. I thought it would go lower than that, than 40, but I wasn't sure. So glad that there you go. Tim Henderson, our detector dealer of choice, with an answer right off right there. So that's good.
Beautiful. But yes, the CTX is beautiful. And I just, in the beach, in the ocean, there is no chatter. And I just got to get myself out there. It's just a matter of.
And I noticed when I was out in the water with mine, of course, you would go over, you could tell when you went over a target. You had to listen to a lot of chatter, but you could tell when you went over a target. And actually, it was, I was probably about waist deep of water and found my best pair of sunglasses. It was a pair of Ray-Bans, and they were probably maybe a foot in under the sand. So it was, you could still tell if you went over a target, but
that was
it was a lot of chatter.
Yeah. That was a good find. Hey, Celeste, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Appreciate you supporting the show. We see you in here quite a bit, and best of luck in your...
You're most welcome. I love metal detecting. It's my life.
Well, it's our life too, whether we want it to be or not. We're hooked, line and sinker, ain't we, Jeff?
Yeah,
we are.
You get started, you just can't stop.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it.
So thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.
I was going to say it's not a hobby anymore; it's an obsession. So
yeah, it's a job. Hey Nick, before we let you go tonight, tell everybody your YouTube channel again.
So my YouTube channel is History Preserved, and I post almost every week. I'm just about getting done with my video from NDL. It's going to be a really good video. I did a lot of filming at the hunt, but yeah, if you guys could go check that out. I post about every week, if not every week, every 2 weeks, but every time I get out and make a video about it, and follow me on that. And also just recently I made shirts, and the History Preserver t-shirt, so if you guys want to get a shirt, you could send me a message through Facebook and you can get one that way. So
yeah, it's just Nick Amelio. And I checked today, Nick, whenever I checked, had 1,156 subscribers on History Preserved. And I want to challenge everybody that's listening to the show tonight. And if somebody will, if you'll put his YouTube channel in the chat there, a link to that, I want to challenge everybody to go over and support this young man, because this is the future of the hobby, and we need to support him in every way that we can. So let's get those subs up to 2,000 as quick as we can. And
thank you.
Yeah, and we appreciate you being on the show. You got anything that you want to add before we close it out?
You were a great... Oh, I'm sorry. You was talking to...
Oh, you could go. You're fine.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, he's been a great guest, and it was our honor having him on, and thanks to everybody in the chat and all the callers.
Yeah. I tell you what, me sitting here, these old bones of mine, I'd give anything in the world if I could have started whenever I was 14 years old. Of course, they didn't have any detectors whenever I was 14, so that's beside the point. But yeah, you're going to do well. You're already doing well, but you're going to excel in anything that you do. I can tell you're driven, you're focused, and that's what it takes to go out there and be persistent with it. You present yourself well. Central Florida Metal Detecting is going to be really impressed when this young man gets up and begins to speak, because you do such a great job, and you've done a great job with us, and we appreciate it, don't we, Jeff?
We sure do, and I sure do wish I was his age when I started. And we were talking about that a couple of shows ago, and somebody mentioned, well, I'd have so many holes dug, I could have made it to China by now, and me and you both would be the same way. And
yeah, especially as old as I am, because I've told Jeff a whole bunch of times I was around when the Dead Sea was still just thick. So I've been here for a long time. But, Nick, we certainly appreciate it. We appreciate all the calls that we've got. Celeste call in, Roger. And
yeah, great questions.
Yeah, great questions, and just a great show. So you guys hang on. I'm going to go ahead and close the show out, and I'll be back with y'all in just a moment. Hey, guys, if you like metal detecting podcasts like this, we want to remind you to go to Beyond Sight and Sound with Josh Kimmel on Sunday night and Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. Catch American Digger Relic Roundup on Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, and then History Seekers comes on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. Hardcore Metal Detecting has a show on Thursday and Saturday at 8 Eastern. And we've got a new show on, XP Team USA, and they're on every other Friday night at 8 p.m. And obviously, me and Jeff will be back next week with Steve Zazulik. And we're going to give the Christmas giveaway away on that show this next week. A Mind Lab metal detector. Somebody's going to win that live on the show next Thursday night. And so you come back next Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern and join us for that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live each Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker. Or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. Please take a minute and hit the like button and be sure and follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with Seven or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to diggingwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.